To give you an idea how important these stories are, years ago, there was a person who came back to the tribe, whose family had been away from the tribe for over 100 years. And every winter time, we have a midwinter ceremony where we tell all our stories. And I was getting ready to tell the story of the fourth crow, and she came up to me and said, I think I know that story. Now my family, we all grew up together, we all know each other, we share the same stories. This was a person who hadn't been a part of our community for over 100 years. I said, please, I'd love to hear your story. As he proceeded to tell the story of the fourth crow, word for word, how I tell it. So that's how important these stories are to our people. When I began it says, that was an old prophecy. It said a fox will be let loose upon the land. It was talking about the coming of the people from across the ocean here. The second part starts talking about a crow. They say, in the beginning, we were all in harmony with the land around us. We were all part and parcel of everything that was here. The second crow, remember, crows are scavengers. Their job in the land, our job as caretakers, their job is to keep the land clean. The second crow foretells the coming of the European here, and the death and destruction. Not only physical death, but a destruction of a culture, of the people. So they say the second crow tried to keep the land clean, keep the land in balance. There's so much death, so much destruction. He ate so much, he died. That symbolizes, again, the first contact and all the destruction and wars and things that happened during that period. The third crow, he saw what happened to his brother, the second crow. He says, I'm not going to go that way. I'm going to take myself away from this craziness. I'm going to hide. He was able to stay safe. But remember what I said, his original reason for being was to keep the land clean. And by hiding and staying safe, he wasn't fulfilling his duties. It symbolizes the Lenape people of this area who we went into hiding. We literally denied who we were, not with each other, but to our community around us. And if anybody knows anything about native cultures, indigenous cultures, there's always a fourth. There's always a fourth crow. And we didn't know what that fourth crow was until not but, I'd say 10, 20 years ago. The elders came to us and said, what we have to stop doing is coming out of the hiding because our rivers are being polluted. Our forests are being cut down. The air, you can't breathe. Acid rain's coming and falling on top of the trees. For years, our section of the river, we have kept clean. But when our neighbors who live upstream don't and pollute it, it comes down to our part. And we said, well, our original direction from the Creator was to be caretakers. And by not explaining to our neighbors upstream how they should live on this land, we weren't being part of the Creator's original intent. And at that point, we all came out. We started mainly working with environmental groups, churches, historical societies to save what was here. And in doing that, we were able to actually, this year was the year of the Delaware River. It was considered the river of the year here. When we first started, what we did, the river was in terrible shape. There were some areas down towards Philadelphia and Camden. There were literally people who worked on the river were getting sick. We can gladly say, by working together, by all being caretakers together, we were able to change one of the longest free-flowing rivers in North America and almost bring it back to how it was, where all of a sudden the shad were coming back up the river. And that was only done because we all worked together. And that's when we understood that prophecy of the fourth crow, where the fourth crow, it says, he will again fly in harmony with the Creator. And that's when we started working together as partners with our neighbors here in Pennsylvania. It started, we were able to get things done. But more importantly, for us, we came out of hiding. You know, it's a terrible thing to live in fear to even say who you are. I remember back in the 70s, I was at a powwow in Philadelphia, and we had started learning how to speak our language again. And we were speaking it, and one of my good friends came and said, "Bob," he says, "would you guys mind not speaking your language?" I said, "Well, yeah, but why?" He goes, "Well, my mother, she's a very elderly woman. In fact, she died, she was 105. He goes, when my mother hears the language spoken, it takes her back to the time of the boarding schools where she was beaten. And to hear her language spoken today makes her sad." And I thought, you know, we've got to change, because to live like that, to live in fear where you can't even say your own language, that's a terrible way to live. And when we came out like that, very slowly, and working with certain people, we found that all of a sudden we felt like caretakers of this land again. So one of the reasons we're here today is not only to share our stories and talk a little bit about the history here and our people, but it's to, you know, offer our hand in friendship to come together and, you know, work together to keep the land we all live on. This is all sacred. Everything we eat, everything we breathe, everything we drink comes from the land. And we want to offer to tell you, we've been here for tens of thousands of years. We offer our hands in friendship to you to be caretakers with us.